Hey everybody, it's Hussein Kabani, your favorite broker, and I want to talk to you guys a little bit about what the Landlord Tenant Board has decided on the rental increase that you are allowed to pass on to your tenant in 2025. Same as the last couple of years, it's actually 2.5% is what they have approved. This applies to units that are under rent control. So any unit that was first built or occupied prior to November 15, 2018 is under rent control. So that means you can only increase that residential rent by the amount of percent that the Landlord Tenant Board prescribes. So again, in 2025, it's going to be 2.5%. Probably doesn't take you too far, especially because of the increases that you've already probably experienced. So I think our inflation is somewhere around 3%. And in a lot of cases that you've probably had an increase in your mortgage payment, especially on that interest side, you've probably had some property tax increases. I know I've had. Our insurances are up. So in this way, it doesn't actually cover up whatever your expenses are going to be. So even if you are allowed to pass on that 2.5%, it's not really going to help you. So there are a couple of things that I think people can consider doing at this point. You may come to a point of basically saying, hey, like it's not worth for me to float it anymore. If you're in a rent controlled unit that says, if I'm only allowed to increase it 2.5%, it doesn't make sense for me because I have a situation like you guys are maybe aware about that I put about $1,900 into a property after collecting rent for it. So we might come to a situation and say, hey, maybe it's better for me to take my money out of this and possibly put it somewhere else and not have to be this much negative cash flow out of pocket. So that's one option. The other thing also is that you might even make it prohibitive for other investors to actually come to the market at the same time. Or even we have investors that will actually avoid units that are built prior to November 15, 2018. We do have a client that does buy investment properties, but before we even go view that property, they are actually asking us, when was it first occupied? What was the date that it was occupied? Because if they say November 15, 2018 or prior, they're going to tell me they don't even want to take a look at that unit anymore. Because if that unit is not under rent control, what you can actually do is you can increase the rent to whatever you really want to increase it to. I mean, it's always a catch with that as well. So if the average rent there is $3,000 and you want $4,000, well, there's a huge chance that that tenant's probably going to move out or cause some kind of fuss about it. But if you're in an area where rent is like $3,000 and you're really like, well, you know what, I want $3,100. If that tenant wants to stay bad enough, they don't have really a choice. They can't argue because that's not under rent control at that point. I mean, this can also be used in a way if you want to try to get a tenant out and just tell them, hey, I want $4,000 a month right now. It could be a way to push them out. Not the right way of doing things, but if you have your back against the wall and you need some kind of leverage, it could open up that leverage for you at that same time. The other solution I want to kind of talk to you guys about, and it could be varying because I call the Landlord Tenant Board the Tenant Protection Agency, but there is something that you could try to do if you have a rent controlled unit, which is basically filing an L5. And with that L5, what you can do is it's basically for being able to increase it beyond the guideline. And in there, you could basically say that my costs are up right now. My insurance costs, my property tax costs, my mortgage payment are up. So you could file this. You could let the tenant know that you're doing this. You will have to go to a hearing. And based on the outcome of that, you may be allowed to increase it beyond the 2.5%. I would also suggest that it might be best to talk to paralegal before you start going down that route, just to say, hey, how viable is this? And a lot of times people's time is worth money to them and they don't understand the process. And it might just be better to talk to a paralegal to say, hey, do you think my chances are good at doing something like this? And how much would you charge to do it? Because if there is a bit of a nominal fee, a few $100 to get the process rolling so you can kind of get an idea of what's going on, it might be better for you to pay somebody so you don't have to attend that meeting, and maybe someone that has experience already going through the Landlord Tenant Board using this L5 to get an increase beyond the guideline for their client as well. It is a bit of an increase. I believe it is the maximum that the Landlord Tenant Board has ever really allowed is the 2.5%. It has been like that for the last few years. Still, like we said, it doesn't kind of cover your inflation, doesn't cover the other expenses that come along with it. And, you know, people that are not in rent control units, they're able to increase it to whatever they really want. And depending on that, it could change the dynamic with your tenant. But yeah, an option is the L5. So if you guys are looking at saying, hey, how do I do something different about this? look over that L5. Very easy to find online. Just Google Landlord Tenant Board L5, and they will also have a pretty good description of how that form needs to be filled out and what the process looks like and who needs to be notified once you fill it out. If you guys have any questions about this process, about the L5, I'm not going to lie, I don't have a ton of experience going around doing it. We have tried to help our clients out, do it a few times in the past, but ultimately have referred it off to a paralegal. But if you guys want to have a conversation around it, or just investment properties in general about like where is a good time to kind of cut off if you're really bleeding out on it, feel free to give me a shout, send me a DM, or even if you guys like, we always have a link for our Calendly below, and you can book a time. We can spend 15-20 minutes on the phone and we can go over whatever you have, and I can give you my 2 cents about it. I hope you guys have enjoyed this little video over here. If you have, I encourage you guys to like it, share it with your friends. Most importantly, guys, don't forget to subscribe because I think I have amazing content. Aside from that, guys, I hope you guys have a good one. And remember one thing, get Cabani, get sold.
Sell it, sell it, sell it, sell it, sold. Sell it, sell it, sell it, sell it, sold. Sell it, sell it, sell it, sell it, sold. Sell it, sell it, sell it, sell it, sold.